another day goes by, and that means that it was another day of mankind looking to the past and seeing the visage of his greater ancestor carved into marble and to stone. What incredible thoughts of philosophy was he thinking up? What terrible ambitions was he scheming to unleash onto the world? And of course, what lives will be spent in Clausewitzian splendor for some unknown goal, or perhaps in the goal of some sort of Faustian ascension? Now, the youth of our day, they have no damn clue, because when they're looking for the Faustian spirit, they're looking for it in trashy map painting games like Hearts of Iron or Europa Universalis, trash like that. And they think that they can find themselves the Faustian spirit in those games playing as Space Karaquanalu or some other dumb trash like that. But really, you can find the Faustian spirit in a good brew like this, and maybe at the end of a crack pipe. But back in the day, in the 80s and 90s of the second millennium, you could actually find the Faustian spirit within the mecha and cyberpunk genres of Japanese animation. Here on out going to be called manime, because it ain't that trash we see today. Age-old OVAs standing for original video animations such as Bubblegum Crisis, Angel Cop, Metal Skin Panic, and probably one of my favorite OVAs of all time, and Mobile Suit Gundam 0083, Stardust Memory, brought a pizzazz, style, and above all, a decently sized budget towards the splendor found in these once-in-a-while release tapes. A lot of these OVAs, especially the ones that I listed off, took inspirations from the sci-fi giants of the West, such as Ridley Scott's Blade Runner or the pioneering work of William Gibson, who wrote such greats as Neuromancer and Burning Chrome, the difference being that the Japanese would take these influences and twist them into something just as special. In an age where Japan was at the top of the world, the West fearing that they could take over the globe with the likes of Fantastic Electronics and a Sony Walkman in everybody's pocket, or blasting Tatsuro Yamashita's Ride on Time in the iconic Toyota AE86. Whether we like it or not, the Japanese, through reality and their boundless dreams, created what we would think the not-so-different future was gonna look like. So what if we took the aesthetics and feeling and that sort of style that you got with those age-old Japanese animations, and you paired it with a first-person shooter framework that is really fitting for the Zoomers of today that just have no damn attention span? Wow, with that, fellas, we got ourselves a wonderful new game to play in Mullet Madjack, developed by Hammer 95. So grab your little beer, grab whatever booze, whatever drink or vice that you want, take it in hand, let's take a sip. And let's talk about Mullet Madjack. Mullet Madjack, developed by Hammer 95 and Epopeia Games, puts us in the shoes of Madjack, a muscle-bound, mulleted bounty hunter killer guy who could pull up as a goon from any of the 80s or 90s cyberpunk anime and has the hip iron to make it count. In this not-so-distant dystopian future, humanity has been enslaved by robo-billionaires, and the only worth that humans have these days is on how much engagement that can be farmed for the unquenchable masses, constantly begging for more bloodshed and TNA. Turns out in this world, the value of a human life comes down to seconds, specifically 10 seconds, which can go as long as you can keep the audience engaged, because if they become bored, then it's over for you and your little mulleted heart. Though I have to commend the development of the attention span in future generations, because only 10 seconds of watching death and bloodshed is a huge improvement over our only 6 seconds of attention to a 3-hour Elder Scrolls lore video, Family Guy, and of course Subway Surfers that can be found in the Zoomers of today. Killing for killing's sakes is cool and all, but in the case of Madjack, he has to scale a skyscraper to save a hot babe from the clutches of a nefarious robo-billionaire. Which, if Madjack is successful, he will receive a pair of brand new ballin' sneakers, and all the monster energy that he could drink to his maligned heart's content. So with that information in tow, a selection of fine firearms in your hands, and a smug anime babe in your head shoutcasting all your exploits or failures, it's up to Madjack to scale this nasty building and save this babe once and for all. Typically, fellas, in my videos, it's safe to say that whether a narrative is heavy or not, it kind of depends on where it's going to be placed. Because, you know, the heavier narrative games, I usually save the narrative for a little bit later on in the video. Or if it's super light, I put it up in the front. And with Mullet Madjack, we're going to put it up at the front. But that don't mean that the narrative is bad. And it's actually got quite a few laughs along the way. The game's story and presentation is basically an excuse to jam as many 80s and anime references and aesthetics as they can within 1-minute levels that have you on a mad dash to the very end. Madjack himself as a character is your typical 80s outrun type of protagonist. He's got the mullet, he's got the boxy shades, and carries a selection of fine weaponry in one hand while chugging down sodas and anime babe branded energy drinks on the other hand. Madjack doesn't say much, but when he takes breaks in between sipping on Babe Brew, he's got an endless series of one-liners that would get you thrown out of a Hollywood Writers Guild for how cheesy and corny they can be. There are also some other characters that highlight the experience, for me ranging from the cocky as all hell, golden-headed robo-billionaire that has taken hostage of our babe, always spouting self-righteous nonsense that tries to make you feel like a dum-dum. Then on the other end of the spectrum is the controller, who cheers you on when you beat through a level, suggesting a selection of fine upgrades for you to choose, and then smugly advertising Peace Corp's post-death products and services, which of course, they have a product for that.
Oh, your dad? We have a special app just for corpses.
Now, I will say that eventually the story actually gets a lot more vital than one would expect. Without having to spoil any of it, some of the twists and turns within the story brought a bit of levity to an otherwise goofy as hell game, while still on the whole making it rather tongue-in-cheek. So I have to say that on the whole, the story for Mullet Madjack ain't gonna be winning any awards, but it keeps you interested while the moment-to-moment gameplay has you laughing and then shaking your head at what outrageous thing they're gonna say next. Ultimately, you'll enjoy these limited narrative elements of Mullet Madjack if you're the sort of schmo that loves to enjoy some trash from the 80s. But to move on to something that is not trashy at all, that is the moment-to-moment fast-paced gameplay that can be found in this game. So, with that, let's go on to the gameplay. Like I mentioned before, the purpose of the game is to save the babe at the end and hope to not get murked by the enemy robots or even by the audience, and that has to do with the attention span of the audience. Basically every level or really floor of this mega tower is a mad dash to the very end, while also racing against time to not bore the audience in such a way that they make your heart flatline, and that attention span is basically 10 seconds. It doesn't mean that you have to beat the level in 10 seconds or less, but more that there is always a timer that is counting down, and the only way to get it back up is to entertain the audience with some bloodshed. So you'll be tasked with shooting up all the robots in your way to get a hit of those sweet, sweet likes. When you kill a robot, normally using a selection of weapons like a trusty revolver, a 90s Tastic Mach 11 machine pistol, a very cyberpunky railgun, and of course a katana that slices and dices the robots to bits. It'll increase the amount of time that you have by 1 second of life. Though if you do something more entertaining, like hitting somebody right in the nuts, then you can get a better reaction from the audience. Entertaining the audience even more, just like I said, can come in a variety of ways, such as getting those wonderful headshots in that have a robo-billionaire's head bursting like a rotten grapefruit, or shooting them in their poor little robo-nuts to have them squealing on the ground in pain. And I gotta say, whether you are of retrograded flesh or have left all that behind for the holy machine, man, I gotta say, nobody likes getting shot or kicked in the balls. If you were to meet your sudden demise, then you will be brought back to the origin of that chapter, which is the initial floor for that segment. So say for instance you getting your ass kicked from 56 back to 50, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but like those trick shots that you do on the robots, sure feels like a nice kick in the balls when you gotta go all the way back. Basically, you'll keep trying to go through these floors, slowly mastering them and whatever new mechanics that they shove in your way until you reach the 10th floor of these sequences, to which you will be cut off from the loving and hating Zoomer fans and have to fight the boss with all your might. The bosses can be anything from massive robo eyeballs that want to blast you with their laser beams, or a super cool Ronin ass looking robot that has you having to get up close and personal to shove a VCR tape up their neck. These boss battles create a nice change of pace from the regular action-packed segments where instead of trying to blast your way through to the exit, you're tasked with being more thoughtful with your actions and how you go about destroying these robo-billionaires, because a few wrong moves can send you back to the beginning. Though I will say that I am partial to the sniper battle that comes at the end of Chapter 3 that bursts my inner Chris Kyle as I snipe these goons within seconds. So don't get in between my sights or else you might get a big owie, or something like that. And when you end up dying, and believe me fellas, you're going to be dying many times, the cycle is fast enough and addictive enough that it has me saying the typical, oh come on man, just one more life, over and over and over and over again until I eventually finish the chapter or get so pissed off that I have to put the damn game down for a sec. If there's one thing to say, that I don't really consider this a bad thing by any regards, but the game is so tightly packed into 1 minute segments that after maybe an hour or so of game time, you might be literally left pretty pooped. So don't be surprised if you think you did something really wild and think to yourself, damn, I've done quite a lot today, only to see that maybe it was an hour and a half of game time. Personally, if you're having a blast and it only lasts for an hour or so, then I wouldn't worry about it. Like having premarital intercourse in the missionary position for the purposes of insemination, don't be ashamed if you have to drop out for performance issues. Moving on fellas, let's get away from the disgusting, absolutely horrendous conjured aesthetics that I put into your mind, because hell, you might need a couple of these to get that away from it, and let's talk about the awesome, cool, wonderful aesthetics that you can find in Mullet Madjack. Starting off with the soundtrack composed by Fernando Pepe and Matteo Spolati for Mullet Madjack. It's basically a mishmash of all those wonderful 80s tunes that you could possibly imagine, ranging from the really chill Jack the Mullet Mad as the menu theme that puts you into a trance, having you believe that you're driving down the coast with the top down, sea wind in your face, and a cute babe in the seat next to you. Equally relaxing and chill is a track known as Golden Sun that is quite literally elevator music that plays every time that you complete a level that is a nice in-between floors. A sort of refuge from all the carnage that you have dispensed on these poor damn robots while you select whatever upgrade you want to use for your next bout, and above all else being serenaded by the sweet, smug, maname voice of your favorite controller. But for the rest of the soundtrack, we're left with a pump synth beat that works hand in hand with the havoc that you're going to bring against these pesky robots, not just for our entertainment, but most importantly of all, for our boy to get some brand new shoes. The tracks aren't particularly long, but the game itself, for one, isn't the longest, and when the game is separated into these wonderful 1 minute chunks, it doesn't really matter if the tracks themselves are that short and loop every so often, but there's enough variety that you're going to be pleased. What matters the most, of course, if it is something that complements the rest of the aesthetics and creates something wonderful to keep your mind in focus as you shove 2 machine pistols into a robot's mouth gangsta style and pull the friggin' trigger. Needless to say that the composers have done a great job at wanting me to rip and tear my way through their metallic asses. Now that's all well and good fellas, but we all know here in the Tompire that the presentation of the game comes in 2 nice meaty chunks. One being the soundtrack and the other one being the lollipop licking, robo metallic ass kicking, chunk of the other ass that we gotta talk about, and boy oh boy, it is a visual spectacle that we will all enjoy. The prime aesthetic that Mullet Madjack tries to wonderfully capture is of course that look and feel of those ancient ass Japanimation, or as the kids would say these days, anime tapes lying around the house that we all used to watch religiously before we even knew what the hell Japan was, and for the most part the game does a great job of emulating it. Whether it be the inclusion of awesome 80s inspired automobiles like taking a Testarossa and pimping it out for a future audience, or lovingly recreating the curvaceous bod or a smug smile of a cute anime girl. Madjack does a great job of putting it in one package and then telling you to run wild with it. Then on the other end of this visual smorgasbord, we got the minute-to-minute gameplay that does an exquisite job of making it feel like something modern and frenetic while still having that style from a bygone age that just whoops everything else out of the water. You'll be blasting down these corridors, machine pistols in hand, and every single time you pull the trigger, you're going to have a spectacle of muzzle flashes, geysers of robo blood, and the status effects of an endless stream of dopamine coming at you that creates an immense audio-visual overload that is incredibly addicting to do over and over and over again, making no distinction in the fun factor between dying and killing others. Now finally, I can truly understand what it must feel like to be one of those young zoomies or Gen Alpha kids with their faces glued to a disgustingly snotty iPad, watching Family Guy, some other dopamine-pleasing video, and playing Subway Surfers all at the same time because their brain engine is so irreparably fried that it's not even funny. But I gotta say, kiddo, that this game is like 10 million times cooler. One of the only gripes I might have that I don't particularly share, but I've heard brought up, is that the anime aesthetic of the game is really close but not 100% the same as it was in the 80s, and to me the answer is, yeah, well duh. This is a game made by people from Brazil, not from the land of the rising sun. There will be some small but noticeable differences if you really care about that sort of stuff, but you won't be seeing me pissing my pants over it. That being said, you're probably all thinking, holy shit, this guy must be from ancient Sumeria, the way he just babble on. So, with that, let's cap this off with some righteous footage.
It had to be robots. Need more taters.
We're back online. We apologize for the inconvenience. Sounds like you're in trouble. You need compensation for this trouble. We have a one-time only offer on our store right now. Sniper time. Wink, wink. Thanks for the purchase.
Learn how the system works.
Hold on! Our princess is near! They're having some type of interference! Key system not working! Looks like our online recovery system too! You're on your eliminating life now! Be careful!
Preparation for tomorrow is doing your best today. Thank you!
People always say I have a can-do attitude.
Now fellas, we're kind of reaching near the end of this video, and you're probably wondering to yourself whether I recommend you picking up this game, and the Tomper's judgment in this game is absolutely. Fellas, if you're looking for a wonderful balls-to-the-wall action-packed game with incredible style and one of the coolest aesthetics to come out of 2024, or in this case probably 1984, then I would absolutely recommend that you pick up Mullet Madjack. The game might not be the longest, but with how the levels are paced out, even at bite-sized chunk, the game feels like it has a lot going for it. Though if you are worried about the length, I did finish the game in about like 3 or 4 hours or so. Personally, I've always been a proponent of it's not about the length of the game, but how much enjoyment you get out of the experience. And I personally think that Mullet Madjack has a lot to offer, even at the price point of 25 Canadian dollars or about 20 euros. And can be found on most modern systems ranging from PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and hell, even Switch. Hammer95 created an absolutely sexquisite little game, and I hope he keeps it up in future titles, because with what he has created here, by just himself and a modest budget, it's already spectacular. So I can only imagine what sort of rad experiences he can offer up when we pump him like our friend pumps his titular mullet full of hairspray. And with that, fellas, we've reached the end of the video, and I gotta say, if you made it this far, thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. And if you're a new person, hey, welcome to the channel. I hope you liked this video, and if you watch my other stuff and enjoy it, then hey, maybe go and subscribe. That'd be pretty damn cool. But with that, fellas, it's kind of nice to do another shorter one of these videos after doing the long ass retrospective in Fear the retrospective, aka First Encounter Assault Recon. But I really did enjoy making that Fear retrospective, so don't you worry. If you love that video, there will be more to come. With that, fellas, it has been an absolute pleasure playing through Mullet Madjack, and if you really did enjoy the game, then I recommend that you go and buy it on your platform of choice so we can give Hammer95 that sweet shmoney, so he can go use that money and make even more cool ass experiences. But gotta say, fellas, with that, this is Tomthechosen1 contacting L'Oreal Paris for an industrial supplies worth of hairspray for this absolutely sexquisite mullet that's coming in, and I'm gonna take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time. Hey, take it easy.